Oral histories from this era tell of Bia guiding resistance fighters to hidden caves and ravines where they could safely evade colonial forces. Some of these natural fortresses became crucial bases for Akan resistance movements, including the famous Ya Santawa War of 1900, when Ashanti forces led by the Queen Mother mounted the last major armed resistance against British colonial rule. Perhaps most significantly, Bia's formless, decentralized presence meant colonial authorities couldn't easily identify and eliminate its influence as they did with more structured spiritual practices. While missionaries could destroy shrines and convert or punish priests of traditional deities, Bia existed in the very relationship between people and their environment, something far harder to eradicate. This period also saw the emergence of what scholars call adaptive manifestations of Bia, the guardian spirit appearing in ways that incorporated elements of the changing world. Stories began to circulate of Bia preventing accidents in mines, guiding people safely through newly built urban areas, or providing intuitive understanding of foreign technologies to those who maintained respect for traditional wisdom. These adaptations suggest something more complex than simple mythology, a living tradition capable of evolution while maintaining its core principles of balance, protection, and ecological wisdom. Despite urbanization, Western education, and religious changes throughout the 20th and 21st centuries, reports of encounters with Bia continue across the Akan regions of Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire. These modern experiences often occur at the intersection of traditional knowledge and contemporary challenges. Environmental scientist Dr. Abina Mensah shares a compelling account from her fieldwork studying forest degradation near Kumasi in 2015. I was gathering samples alone in a remote area when I became disoriented after a sudden rainstorm. My equipment was soaked, my phone dead. As darkness approached, I experienced what I can only describe as a profound sense of being watched, not threateningly but attentively. Then I noticed certain mushrooms near tree roots seemed to be faintly bioluminescent, forming what appeared to be a path. Having grown up hearing stories of Bia, I decided to follow. The path led me directly to a small village I hadn't known existed. The elders there seemed unsurprised by my arrival, saying simply, "Bia has brought you to us for a reason." I ended up documenting crucial traditional knowledge about forest regeneration from that community that has since informed reforestation projects throughout the region. Urban encounters are reported as well. Taxi driver Kwame Anchi describes a night in Accra when he picked up an elderly passenger who asked to be taken to a construction site where a sacred grove had once stood. When we arrived, there was nothing but concrete and steel. The old man sighed and asked me to wait. He walked to the center of the site and seemed to be speaking to someone I couldn't see. When he returned, he told me the building would never be completed unless the developers made proper offerings and adjusted their plans to preserve a particular ancient tree they had scheduled for removal. I thought he was just a traditional man upset by progress. 6 months later, I drove past the same site and saw construction had indeed stopped after a series of unexplained structural failures. Eventually, the developers consulted with local elders, preserved the tree in question, and incorporated a small green space in their design. Only then did construction resume successfully. What's striking about these contemporary accounts is their consistency with historical patterns. Bia continues to manifest not as a supernatural force performing miracles, but as a subtle guide encouraging balance and respect between development and natural systems. Beyond its significance to Akan communities, the tradition of Bia offers valuable insights for our collective approach to environmental and social challenges. First, Bia represents a model of spiritual ecology that prioritizes relationship over dominion. Unlike belief systems that position humans as masters of nature or separate from it, Bia embodies the understanding that humans are participants in a complex, interdependent community of beings. This perspective aligns with emerging scientific understanding of ecosystems as interconnected networks rather than hierarchical systems. Second, the covenant with Bia emphasizes intergenerational responsibility. In Akan thought, the land doesn't belong solely to the living but is held in trust for ancestors and future generations. This time frame naturally encourages sustainable thinking, contrasting sharply with economic systems focused on short-term extraction and profit. Third, Bia's manifestations demonstrate the value of integrated knowledge systems. The guardian doesn't appear through elaborate ceremonies accessible only to specialists, but makes its presence known through natural phenomena observable by anyone with proper attention and understanding. This democratized approach to ecological wisdom creates communities where environmental responsibility is everyone's concern, not just designated authorities. Perhaps most importantly, Bia offers a model of adaptation without abandonment, evolving to address new challenges while maintaining core principles. As humanity faces unprecedented planetary changes, this capacity for flexible preservation of essential wisdom may prove vital. Indigenous knowledge systems worldwide contain similar ecological guidance, refined through centuries of place-based observation and experience. These traditions, like Bia's wisdom, represent not relics of the past but sophisticated frameworks for sustainable relationships with our environments, intellectual and spiritual resources we can ill afford to lose as we navigate an uncertain future. As our journey with Bia draws to a close, I invite you to consider what might change in our world if we approached our environments with the same reverence and responsibility embedded in the Bia tradition, seeing ourselves not as owners of the earth, but as participants in a sacred covenant with the places we inhabit. Whether you interpret Bia as a literal spirit, a metaphorical representation of ecological wisdom, or a cultural framework for sustainable living, its core message transcends these distinctions. We exist in relationship with our environments. These relationships carry responsibilities, and balance must be maintained for mutual flourishing. Perhaps there is something of Bia's consciousness stirring in the growing global awareness of our environmental impact, a planetary guardian attempting to guide us back toward balance before it's too late. Or perhaps Bia exists precisely in our capacity to recognize our interdependence with all living systems and act accordingly. For the Akan people, Bia has never been distant or abstract. It is as immediate as the soil beneath their feet, as vital as the forests providing clean air and water, and as real as the consequences that follow when natural balances are disrupted. In this sense, Bia exists wherever humans remember their place within the web of life rather than above it. As you move through your own environment today, whether forest or farm, suburb or city, I encourage you to pause and consider, what would it mean to live as if a guardian spirit of your homeland was watching? What covenants might need renewal in your own relationship with the places you inhabit? What wisdom might the land itself be trying to share, if only we would listen? The Akan elders say that those who truly wish to encounter Bia need only one thing: the humility to see themselves as both protector and protected within the great community of life. Perhaps this wisdom is exactly what our troubled world needs most. As climate change, deforestation, and resource extraction present unprecedented threats to West African ecosystems, many Akan communities are experiencing what they describe as Bia's awakening, an intensification of the guardian's presence in response to environmental crisis. Sacred groves protected for centuries through spiritual taboos have gained new significance as biodiversity hotspots and carbon sinks. Environmental scientists have documented how these traditional conservation areas demonstrate remarkable resilience against climate stressors, often containing plant species that could prove crucial for adaptation strategies. Climate activists and environmental organizations in Ghana have increasingly incorporated Bia's principles into their advocacy, finding that framing conservation in terms of traditional covenants with the land resonates more deeply with local communities than abstract scientific arguments alone. When we speak only of carbon sequestration or biodiversity indexes, many community members see environmental protection as a foreign concept imposed from outside. But when we discuss restoring balance with Bia, maintaining the covenant our ancestors established with this land, people understand immediately that environmental protection is also cultural preservation and spiritual responsibility. This integration of traditional ecological knowledge with modern conservation science represents a powerful approach to environmental challenges. Researchers have documented how communities that maintain strong connections to Bia's principles typically demonstrate more sustainable resource management practices and greater resilience to climate impacts than those where these traditions have been abandoned. Some spiritual leaders and environmental activists have even described the global climate crisis as Bia calling out, not just to Akan peoples but to humanity as a whole, a planetary guardian spirit attempting to restore balance before irreversible damage occurs. This has been Bia, the mystical guardian of the Akan lands. If you appreciated this journey, Please consider supporting organizations working to preserve indigenous ecological knowledge and protect vital ecosystems in West Africa. Like, subscribe, and share to help others discover the profound wisdom of Bia's tradition. Until next time, may you walk in balance with your own homeland.